Hello and welcome to Module 5, Atmospheric Science and Global Climate Change. Chapter 13 will help you relate the concepts of weather and climate, understand the factors that shape global climate patterns, identify sources of and solutions to air pollution, and learn about the causes and consequences of ozone depletion and acid deposition. This chapter is also the perfect foundation for Chapter 14, Global Climate Change. There are 4 numbers that you should be familiar with as a concerned citizen when it comes to climate change. The first number is 350. This is the recommended safe concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere that will keep climate change from progressing further, although we surpassed that number almost a decade ago. The second number is 2 degrees Celsius. This is the amount of warming we can tolerate and still maintain somewhat normal conditions on the planet. We are already almost halfway there, though, with no real slowing of fossil fuel use, the main source of the greenhouse gas, CO2, carbon dioxide, and we can already see the impacts of climate change. The third number is 565 gigatons. This is the amount of carbon we can burn by 2050 with a reasonable hope of staying under the 2 degrees Celsius limit of change. And the last number, importantly, is 2,795 gigatons. This is the amount of carbon in the proven recoverable oil and gas reserves, basically what fossil fuel companies are planning to extract and sell to be burned. Note that this number is 5 times higher than the amount that we can burn and hope to stay within the safety zone we've established with 350 parts per million and 2 degrees Celsius. And while these numbers are probably not perfect, they're still a good estimate of where we need to be and the amount of fossil fuels we can safely burn and the amount of fossil fuels that we plan on burning. These numbers help illustrate why climate change is the biggest environmental challenge we face right now and will face in the future. And understanding how human activities can lead to climate change is essential to knowing how to fight against it. Chapter 14 gives a thorough overview of the factors that influence climate change, greenhouse gases and how they relate to climate change, approaches to studying climate change, current and future impacts of climate change, as well as ways that we can respond to climate change. I've posted a fun John Oliver clip on the Fun page, illustrating why it's a common misconception that there is still a debate over whether or not climate change exists. As this is a science class and an overwhelming amount of scientific evidence indicates that our current rate of climate change is due to human activities, this is really not an issue that is up for debate. Really, the question now is, how do we deal with the impacts of climate change that we already have and how to mitigate further climate change? So in the discussion for Module 5, you'll be asked to discuss potential positive impacts of fighting against climate change and what we can do to fight against climate change at a personal and national and global level. Bill McKibben is the founder of 350.org. That is a climate change organization fighting against climate change, helping people organize. And you'll be reading an article of his called A World at War, which illustrates how lessons learned from World War II can help us fight climate change. And make sure you allow a little extra time to read this article, as it's a little bit longer than some of the others that were assigned for past modules. The numbers mentioned previously were from another McKibben article called Global Warming's Terrifying New Math. And although it's not required, I do recommend reading it if you want more information about those numbers. And a link to that is also provided on the Fun page. In the module discussion, you will also reflect on some personal actions that you can take to address climate change that are in a short New York Times article. So I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts on the positive side of fighting climate change in the discussion forum. Enjoy!